Hi, I'm Rachel and I'm here to do a quick author's answer video. The author's answer series was started by J.D. Archer and his writing group, and I've been answering one of the questions per month for 15 months now. This is the 15th question. So I'll leave a link to his playlist and my playlist down below. So question 15 is about if your writing is influenced by any sort of new media. This actually ties in quite nicely with the last author's answer question that I answered, because I was talking about my novella in progress and how it's inspired in part by the Harry Potter role-playing group that I was a part of on LiveJournal several years ago. That's been niggling at me ever since, because I feel like I answered incorrectly about what I took from the game. I talked about taking parts of the plot from the game, but really nothing that's in my story ever happened in the game. Some of the backstory we talked about possibly happening, but it never did. But I took those questions and I kind of made them my own backstory and ran with it, and of course it also takes place in the modern day and not at Hogwarts. Anyway, I feel like maybe what I really did mostly take from the role-playing game was the characters. I mean, I really tweaked them a fair bit because I moved the story from, you know, a magical wizarding land to modern-day Eastern Shore in D.C., Eastern Shore of Maryland, realist fiction and all that. But I do think that the characters really are what mapped closely, in large degree, at least their emotions, to what I was playing with and what other people in my game were playing with. And even with background characters, occasionally I just go ahead and I steal from other people's characters and maybe their names. One or two names I think I stole at least the first name from, and a little bit of the personalities. So I guess I really do have to go with character, and I am hoping the gals from my game ultimately read it and tell me what they think. For years I've been griping with a couple of them about stealing their stuff, but they've been telling me for years that it's really mine now. It's moved beyond the game. So anyway, that's one big one that I take from in new media. I take inspiration from role-playing games, online role-playing games. Other than that, well, I mostly write short fiction, short stories, and a lot of that comes from just my head, like some personal history stuff and autobiographical stuff, and just images that really have popped into my head from I don't know where. I think I can get away with that a little more in short fiction, I guess, to say I really don't know exactly where the inspiration came from other than from myself. I have this NaNoWriMo idea for next year, which will be a fantasy novel, and that I'm definitely taking inspiration from books and movies. Particularly, I wanted to write a fantasy series. I've been saying I've wanted to write it for Sansa Stark, my favorite character in Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. So I'm certainly inspired a fair bit about what I've read and seen on the show. Mostly my impetus, I guess what I'm really saying with that is that I want to write a world where the magic system is based more on the feminine arts, and that any militarism and tomboyism is kind of in the background, or especially with like military action and warfare seen as a bad thing, although you can say that A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones also shows the downside to warfare. But mostly I wanted to write something where the magic system was based on the feminine arts, and where a strong female character could be seen as more feminine. I also have two other inspirations that I want to draw into this fantasy novel that I'm hoping to write in November. And in fact, I'm hoping maybe this will easily make me divide the novel into three parts, into three acts. I'm niggling with ideas in my head. I have to actually outline. But anyway, one of the things I want to explore is the Little Red Riding Hood story, which definitely is not new media, not at all. But this is really embarrassing and really bad, but I am taking a little bit of inspiration about what I want to explore in this novel from the 2011 film, which is a bad film, but even bad films can bring inspiration. And another thing I really want to use to explore aspects of is Peter Pan. But really, I've read the novelization of Peter Pan, but I feel like I'm mostly getting trinkets of inspiration for that from the 2003 live-action movie. I think a lot of people would think that's a silly little movie too, but I think it has some charm and things to get inspired by. And finally, well, JD was talking about being inspired by science news, and that got me to thinking about news and how it's disseminated today, and how I'm very much inspired, I would say, by current events, but admittedly I do get a lot of that, at least preliminarily, from social media. And another thing that does fascinate me is our cultural response to news, and for good or bad, maybe more bad, a lot of that comes through on social media. So that's something I'm thinking about, I guess in particular because, based on something that I'm putting in my way future plans idea. I kind of want to write a big American Jewish novel, or some sort of American Jewish novel, and I want to focus a bit on an interfaith family because that's what I am, and I'm also really taken with like the relationship between American Jews and the left and how that's changing, and that's a lot of stuff that I read and react to on social media and the responses that people get on social media, and these are all just thoughts flying in my head really, and there's other things I probably want to explore too, but I have a lot of writing projects on my plate right now that I'm mostly just sitting on it and not researching it, but maybe sometime in the future when I think I'm old and wise enough I will return to current events and social media and how to incorporate that into the next phase of Jewish American novel writing. It'll be me. I'll be the one to do it. I'm sure if I look hard enough I'll find other Jewish American writers who are already incorporating social media into their works, because you really can't get away from it if you want to write any sort of modern day realist novel. So hopefully I'll find more of those too to inspire me. So that about covers it for me now. I think I've already run longer than I hoped to with this, and I have to get moving relatively soon to go to Baltimore. It's Father's Day weekend and I need to see my dad, and I also need to see my niece and my little newborn nephew, you know. So I better go now. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Keep writing, and I'll see you next time.